Good morning, everybody. I'm going to give our friends a couple of minutes to join us here at Curiosity Corner Live. This is an awesome episode. It's episode 43, if you can imagine that. If you've not already done so, be sure to click on the playlist on our channel, subscribe, and check out the other videos because some of the content that we've learned early on is going to be really helpful in our engineering design challenge today. I know Jackson is already here joining us this morning. Hope you guys are having a good time. I was out and about yesterday and I noticed that, man, the wind was really something fierce yesterday. Perfect timing for what we're going to be talking about today. There's a couple of different things that I mentioned we can use from previous episodes, and one of those, Andy had made a pinwheel last week, I believe so. Steve, Lori, good morning. Glad you are having a good time. I'm having a good time as well, and I can't wait to get outside and enjoy some of that sunshine. All right, well, I think it's about time to get started. We've got a really fun episode in store for you today. Once again, welcome to Curiosity Corner Live. My name is Robin. I'm Program Development Director, and I'm so excited to bring one of these activities to you this morning because it's going to be a beautiful day here in Cleveland to test out our engineering design skills. So I have a question for you. The question of the day is, how can you measure the speed of something that's moving if you can't see the object that's moving? What do you think? How can you measure something if you can't see it? That's what we're going to be talking about today. In fact, the thing that we're going to be measuring today is the speed of wind. Now, in order to understand how we can measure wind speed, hi, Evelyn, good morning. We need to first learn a little bit more about wind. So let's figure out what wind is. I happen to have a bottle, and if you checked out an earlier episode, you would have learned that this bottle, while it appears to be empty, is actually full to the rim. What do you guys think it's full of? Is it liquid? No, it happens to be full of gas. In fact, it's full of the air from the atmosphere. And if I do a little bit of an experiment, we can understand a little bit more about wind, what wind is. So I'm going to trap that air inside the bottle using a balloon. And then I'm going to put my bottle inside some hot water. Now, in order to do that, I need hot water. Fortunately, I've got a kettle brewing right here. Hi, Evie, or is it Evie? All right. So we're going to add some hot water into my Pyrex container. You can see if you're looking closely that it's steaming and the cold glass is starting to get a little bit foggy. So it's really hot water. All right, so what do you think will happen if I put this bottle inside the hot water? Any hypotheses? All right, let's test it and see. Now remember, by placing the balloon on top of this bottle, I've trapped the gases or the air that's inside that bottle. And we'll notice if we pay very close attention that the balloon is starting to inflate just a little bit. You're learning about solids, gases, and liquids. Awesome. Those are the three common states. And I happen to have all three of them right here in front of me. I've got solids in the balloon, the plastic, the air inside, the water inside my container. That's awesome. Yeah, the balloon is starting to inflate because what's happening is those molecules are heating up. They're gaining thermal energy and they're starting to move around like crazy. Now, what do you hypothesize will happen if I put this same balloon, which is starting to inflate just a little bit, in a beaker of cold water? Let's find out. So I've got room temperature water in here, add some ice cubes, and let's find out what happens if we put it in the cold water. If you look really closely, you'll notice that it's starting to deflate just a little bit. And the reason that happens is because wind is air that happens to be moving. And it all happens to be about how much thermal energy those molecules have. As the sun heats up the air, it starts moving and moving and moving like crazy. And it starts to go up because hot air rises. And the thing with wind is it's all about air pressure, and high pressure pushes on low pressure. So now that we know that wind is nothing more than moving air, it gets that energy from the sun, thermal energy starts moving around. We need to figure out how we can then measure it because we still can't see it. Any ideas? I'm going to clean up my section. Now I want you to think about it. How can we measure wind? Any ideas yet? Well, what we need to do is we need to build an instrument. An instrument is a device that helps us measure wind speed. And if you build your wind speed instrument just the right way, you can also measure wind direction. Now, why would we want to know what speed the wind is moving? Have you ever checked out, if you've not already, check out episode 36 last Monday. Our friend Brooks taught us how we can make our own kites. Have you ever flown a kite before? How do kites work? Do they like slow moving air or fast moving air? Definitely work better when the wind is moving faster, but not too fast. Remember, safety is very important. You also might have seen Andy in episode 30. Andy talked to us about energy and specifically turbines. And I'm going to show you a quick video, and I want you to notice what you see on the top of that turbine. Okay, ready? What do you guys observe? What did you observe in that video? Did you see that thing spinning around? So that device is called an anemometer. And that's what we're going to be building today, is we're going to be building an anemometer. I know that's a really, really big word. So let me show you something else. And I want you guys to start gathering your material. So I'm going to show you the supplies that you need. You ready for this? All right. So we're going to start gathering our supplies in order to build an anemometer. All right, you ready for this? You're going to need several different things in order to build an anemometer. Now remember, if you don't have the supplies, you can improvise. You need a hole punch, a marker or pen, a ruler, a pencil, preferably sharpened, but you want to make sure that you have the eraser on it, 2 straws, but make sure that they're not the bendy kind, a thumbtack, and 5 small paper cups. Okay, so those are the supplies that you need. If you don't have a hole punch, that's okay. So remember, this is all about improvising. And you know what? I tried to build a couple of anemometers this weekend, and there was a couple of different things that I decided that I wanted to test out and improvise. And I'm going to show you how those are. Now remember, make sure that you have an adult with you to help with this because we are going to be using some sharp instruments. And if you don't have a hole punch, you can use a pencil that's been sharpened or a pair of scissors. But remember, be very, very careful when you're using those instruments. All right, so here's what we're going to do. In order to build an anemometer, I have an example here for you that I want to show you. This is a simple anemometer that we're going to build, but remember, there's lots of different devices or anemometers that you can build at home. So you need 5 cups. The size of the cups don't matter. I wanted to use paper cups, and I have a little bit of a smaller cup, but they have to be the same size. The 1 cup in the center, you're going to poke 4 holes. Now, the most important thing with that cup, so that's the cup that I'm going to start with, is I want to make sure that I poke holes on both sides of the cup and that they're exactly perpendicular from one another, because the straw needs to connect those. And if it's crooked just a little bit, it might not work very well. So what I did, I don't know if you can see it very well, but I marked the opposite ends. Now, 2 of the holes I'm poking pretty high up, and then the other 2 holes on the opposite sides, I'm going to poke a little bit lower down so that the straws can cross in the middle. Now remember, if you do have a hole punch, or if you're using scissors or a pencil, make sure that you use all your safety precautions and have an adult with you. So now that I've gotten all 4 of my holes poked, you'll notice I've got holes on all 4 sides. The next thing that I want to do is I want to mark the center of the bottom of the cup, and I'm also going to poke a hole here. Now, there's a couple of ways that you can do that. You can use a sharpened pencil, or you can use a pair of scissors. I don't happen to have either of those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my thumbtack very carefully, and I'm going to poke a couple of holes in it until I get that hole big enough that I can stick a pencil through it. Now, the most important thing with your pencil is you want to make sure that you've got the eraser, because the eraser is going to be the part that pivots. So once it's big enough, I'm going to poke my pencil through it, and there you go. You have the base of your anemometer. Now, the parts that's spinning, you're going to have 4 other cups, and you'll notice that I've already started to poke holes in these cups. And there's a couple of different ways that you can do that. You can do that by poking 1 hole in it and then putting the straw through and taping it. Or what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so that it's a nice, tight friction fit. And so I've poked 2 holes, and I'm going to thread the straw through 1 hole and out the other. So that way I don't have to use any tape. But if you choose not to do that, you can also just tape or even staple your straw to the cup, and it'll stay put. I can't wait to show you the other anemometer that I built this weekend. Oh gosh. Okay. So with a little bit of manipulating, I should be able to get this straw through the hole. And you notice it's nice and secure. I poked my holes pretty adjacent to one another, about an inch or so apart. And you're going to do that with all of your cups, and then stick it through the adjacent cup, and then you're going to put it on the other one. Now, here's the important thing. You want to make sure these are going to catch the wind. So you want to make sure that you put the cup facing the same direction as the others. So I want to turn the cup around and then poke it through and out the other. Now, if you're tuning into this afterwards, or if you don't happen to have your supplies with you, that's okay. You can come back and pause this and look at your supplies, gather your supplies, and watch it again. So now that I've got 2 cups that are fairly well secure, I can do the same thing with the cups on the other side. So for the sake of time, I'm going to bypass this and show you exactly how it works. Once you've gotten all 4 of your cups attached to your central column, you're going to take your thumbtack, you're going to poke it very carefully through those 2 straws that are crossed and into the top of your eraser. Once you have that, what I like to do is I like to kind of move it around a little bit to test how easily that's going to flow. All right, so let's test our design. You ready? Watch this. I'm going to turn this fan on with magic. I'm just kidding. It's not magic. It's a remote control. Okay, so when you hold your device, sometimes it takes a little bit of moving around to see if you can actually get it to move. And what happens is eventually, if you have a nice loose connection, it'll start to spin around a little bit. And measuring wind speed using an anemometer is helpful because it can tell us a couple of things. It can tell us how quickly a storm is going to move in. Let's say you want to go camping, or maybe you want to just go for a walk. Meteorologists, one of my favorite kinds of scientists, they use anemometers and wind speed and direction devices all the time. Now remember, this is an engineering design challenge. So in addition to the design that I showed you, you can experiment at home. Maybe you don't have cups. So what I did was I took round circles of paper, I cut it about halfway down and folded it so that I had this concave shape. And let's test this design. It's not working very well. And part of the reason is because the amount of weight because it wasn't in the eraser. So you want to make sure that there's not too much weight or that the friction isn't so strong that you can't get a nice movement. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm really excited to continue to try out my anemometers, and I might even take it outside and test it for our 3 o'clock episode. So remember, it's all about experimentation, perseverance, and patience. And if you don't have the same materials that I have, I'm so curious what materials you have. What did you use to make your anemometer? Now, you might be wondering, how does this measure wind direction? Well, my particular anemometer only measures wind speed. And the way that I do that is by counting how many revolutions it makes. Now, if you want to measure wind speed, you might want to mark one of your cups so that you can count how many times it goes around a circle in a minute. So, I'm so curious to see what you make as part of your engineering design challenge, anemometers, and want to make sure that you show us your photos and videos using the hashtag you see on the screen. Stay curious, CLE. I'm going to be back at 3 p.m. and hopefully I'll show you how well my anemometer happened to work. Now, remember I said this only measures wind speed. If you want to get really creative, you can also add a vane to it and measure wind direction. All right, everybody. Well, I hope you have fun experimenting. Remember to clean up before and after yourself. Always be safe, and I look forward to seeing you at 3 p.m. Until I see you then, stay curious.